Welcome back to Teach English Now. In this video, we want to pay tribute to the way in which the direct approach has informed teachers today. As we mentioned briefly in the last video, one of the ways in which the direct approach has influenced us is through an examination of whether or not second language should be learned like a first language. The answer, as you can imagine, is somewhat complex. First of all, through a number of studies, it appears that learners go through a rather predictable developmental sequence, just like children. Second of all, the use of visual aids and objects made readily available around a room is a time-tested technique that all teachers should feel comfortable with. Supporting your room with pictures, objects, and maps can help support memory and understanding. On the other hand, it is also true that learners, especially at later ages, draw on their knowledge of their native language as they try to learn a new one. This is often referred to as transfer. And one of the most common arguments being made is whether transfer is negative or positive. Let me explain. Negative transfer might refer to transferring a linguistic item incorrectly from one language to another, whereas positive transfer refers to the idea of correctly assuming that how it works in one language, presumably your native language, is the same way it works in the new language. I definitely transferred, for example, my knowledge of Spanish to help me with my Portuguese. And in fact, when I don't know a word in Portuguese, I usually attempt the Spanish word and put a Portuguese accent on it. And quite honestly, it sometimes works out. Good idea or bad idea? Well, again, it sometimes works. Ultimately, the idea that an adult learner should learn exactly like a child probably doesn't hold true, because an adult does have resources and understanding that a child doesn't in order to facilitate learning. However, there are ways that a childlike direct approach can be very useful. Here are some techniques that I have definitely learned in my language classroom that are techniques that are used in the direct approach. Enactments. Students can enact a play or a situation in a way that is fun and culturally specific. An enactment of a play or a dialogue, especially with the use of gestures, pictures, and visual aids, helps to support an understanding of both culture and meaning. Student self-correction. Teachers in the direct method were very good at putting the responsibility of learning on a learner. A teacher often used the approach of repeating an incorrect sentence and then using a questioning voice in order to help the student catch the mistake. For example, a student might say, "I catched the ball." And a teacher might lift a brow and say questioningly, "I catched a ball?" to see if the student can self-correct. The very concept of self-correction puts learning squarely on the shoulders of the learner and can help a learner develop the ability to monitor his or her own language. Draw a picture. Drawing a picture based on a dictation can be a fun way to help students pay attention to a teacher. A teacher might ask students to draw a picture of a house with a certain number of windows and doors, maybe a tree outside, and perhaps something unusual, like a monkey in a tree. After the teacher dictates and students draw based on the dictation, students can compare their results with that of other students. Using maps and information gap. The use of maps can help to draw students into the geography and culture of where a language is spoken. In addition, it can be a great tool for helping students talk to each other. For example, imagine that one student has a map with all of the rivers labeled, but all the mountains are unlabeled. Another student has a map with all of the mountains labeled, but not the rivers. A teacher could invite students to share information with each other in pairs with only one simple rule. Students with the river map are not allowed to look at the mountain map, and the students with the mountain map are not allowed to look at the river map. They must complete their maps with both rivers and mountains by talking with each other and asking questions. This kind of information sharing is referred to as information gap and has become a common ESL technique all over the world. Thanks for watching Teach English Now. In the next video, we will summarize some of the important features of the two approaches you have seen so far. We will also invite you to compare and contrast these two approaches and consider what parts of these approaches resonates most with you. See you next time.